being disabled should not mean being disqualified from having access to every aspect of life. That quote from a British actress perfectly summarizes the message we want to send inside Jamaica Magazine today. The reason? It's always the right time to defend the rights of every Jamaican and enable them to achieve their goals and dreams. So please, keep watching as we explore this issue inside this Sunday's Jamaica Magazine offering. I'm Audrey Williams. Welcome.
Sign with me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Sign with me.
Informing.
Jamaica today confirmed its first imported case of coronavirus.
Educating.
If you follow the recommended procedures, it is highly likely that you will not get the disease.
Going beyond to keep you informed and connected.
Welcome to Get the Facts.
Even through the pandemic. Helping you stay safe while we protect ourselves. Dependable. Impactful. Accurate.
This is your JIS News.
Credible. Trustworthy. Every day, everywhere. Serving our customers proudly.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Vanessa Silvera. Now, the pilot phase of the electronic traffic ticket system is now in operation, and it is proving to be very effective. It's also a welcomed move by members of the police force. Now, to provide more details on this initiative is Head of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, PSTEB, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Gary McKenzie. Welcome to the program, ACP McKenzie.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this electronic ticketing system is said to be a game changer in the police force, particularly in the traffic division. How is this so?
Well, it is definitely so in a number of ways. In fact, what it aims to do is for us to be more efficient in terms of how we serve the public. So, first up, we will make less mistakes. One of the issues with using paper-based traffic ticket is that the officer has to write. And so you don't have to do this by using the electronic device. It is pre-populated with certain information. And so if, for example, your driver's license number is inputted, then everything else about the driver comes up. Also, if you input the information in terms of the registration plate, then other information around the vehicle also comes up. So the police officer is able to issue a traffic ticket much faster. The device also comes with a printer, so the ticket is also printed at the same time. And of course, if the person chooses the option to pay a ticket just after the ticket has been issued, then they can go ahead and pay it because...
Right then and there.
Right then and there.
Right.
Right, not to the officer, but online, that is.
Right. Okay, now this system is connected to the Island Traffic Authority, the Inland Revenue Department, and the courts as well. How useful is this?
Very useful, and I just mentioned one of the advantage in terms of the information being online, and so it can be paid at the same time. Also, because there is this connectivity to TAJ, the information can be compared. So, for example, an officer could stop a person, and when they input the license plate, number, and letter, it differs from the vehicle that is actually in front of the officer.
Oh.
So that would send up a red flag to say that there is some misplacement in terms of the actual vehicle and the plate that is on it. And that also goes as well for the driver's license, because we have already discovered persons tendering fictitious driver's license to the police.
So it's a crime-fighting tool as well?
It is also a crime-fighting tool because you can gather information. You are also able to see how much outstanding traffic tickets that the person actually have. So it's really a very good tool.
It is. Now, let me ask, what kind of information shows up when the motorist's information is entered into the system?
Well, the person's address, their date of birth, when the driver's license was issued, when it expires, for the vehicle, the registration information, your fitness information, the insurance company for which the vehicle would have been insured, as well as the issue and the expiry dates.
All right, and how extensive is the rollout of the e-traffic ticket system? Is it in all areas of the island, or is it in concentrated areas?
Well, it is not yet in all areas of the island. We have started in the more dense area of the country, which is in the corporate area in St. Catherine, and the aim is to extend it just like anything else. Once you start, then you assess and you move across as you acquire more instruments.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the response from members of the JCF who use this electronic ticketing system.
Well, they are very happy with it because, for one, if you do not have to spend 5 or 7 minutes to write and you are able to issue a traffic ticket within 2 minutes, then that is really quite very efficient. And so also with the paper-based ticket, the officers usually, when they get in off duty, they would have to write up several forms. They don't have to do that again because it is actually, the information is already on the system, that is electronically. So, you know, it makes it much easier.
It does. Insightful. Now we have to take a break. So come back soon because this is a very interesting discussion.
The Disabilities Act will protect the rights of all persons with disabilities. And here's a great teaching moment. Every person with a disability, like a deaf or hard of hearing child, for example, has the right to an education with accessible facilities and the support they need. In this case, it would be a teacher who can use the language of the deaf, which is sign language. Visit jcpdja.com. A message from the JCPD, an agency of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. Now we continue our discussion with Head of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, PSTEP, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Gary McKenzie. Let's talk about your division, ACP McKenzie. It's about enforcing public order among road users, right? And it's about ensuring road safety and public safety. All right. Now, why does it seem so challenging to get motorists, especially PPV drivers, not to congest the town centers?
Well, public safety, it really takes care of everything as it relates to the public, and certainly in terms of management of public spaces and the roadways, it is quite a lot of things because we are talking about not only use of the road, but use of other areas to include transportation centers, other business complexes, and so on. And so that is a part of the whole issue of public safety. But to get specifically to what you had asked in terms of persons adhering to rules and so on, we have seemed to get into a culture of indiscipline that is affecting us so very badly. And of course, we have done a lot of enforcement. Last year, for example, we would have issued over 440,000 traffic tickets. And yearly, that is about the average. And so it is not a lack of enforcement. Of course, there always have to be more enforcement as long as we have offenses being committed. But the fact is that we really want people to take personal responsibility. And so we go the education route. We try to get to the various associations as it relates to public passenger vehicles. We try to get to other corporations, organizations, the schools, in terms of use of the road, because we do have quite a bit of fatalities involving pedestrians, motorcyclists, and private motor car drivers and passengers.
What can be done to change this culture, the culture of indiscipline, and where we have persons calling it economic survival mode? I mean, what can be done about it? And it also prevents them from complying.
Well, I think there has to be an early realization of what it means to be safe in using the roads. Of course, transportation is a very big part of our survival in Jamaica.
Right.
And there have been calls from several quarters that road safety in particular should be introduced in schools, especially high schools. I mean, we have already introduced it at the primary level, but certainly it should be part and parcel of growth. Right. In terms of our realization of taking care of ourselves. And so education, certainly improved legislation also needs to be a part of it. We know that the new Road Traffic Act, when commissioned, it will take care of several things to include jaywalking, right. And of course increased use of technology in terms of persons disobeying traffic lights at intersections and cameras being there to generate tickets and so on. Those things cumulatively will make a difference. But, you know, personal responsibility is the key.
I agree. But what is stopping us from rolling it out on a broader scale, especially in our schools?
Well, it is just to get the will to actually do it. Of course, the police is working with other entities, such as the National Road Safety Council. I know the Ministry of Education has to be involved and so on. And so the discussions are really far advanced, and there has been some amount of work, but we really need to get it to be more systematic and to be more concretized in these institutions.
You mentioned the work that is being done. What are some of the strategies that are being applied to restore the acceptable standard of public order in these spaces?
Well, one of the things that we have to do is to get everybody to understand the crisis that we actually have.
You call it a crisis?
It is a crisis.
Okay.
I mean, we are losing. Last year, it was 483 persons who died on our roads.
Wow.
The year before that, it was 432. And so you find if we are losing over 400 persons every year on our roads, and we are talking about breadwinners. The category that features the most is persons between the ages of 18 to 35 years old. And, you know, it is mostly men. So you find that young adult stage, mostly breadwinners, persons who are really in their peak in terms of contributing to the success and development of the country, they are losing their lives on the roads. And it can be avoided. Over 90% of crashes are caused by human error. So this is something that we have to get into the head spaces of these persons. But as a police officer, you know, we have to enforce. We have to use all that we have to enforce, to educate, to work along with our stakeholders to ensure that we can make a difference.
Now, you mentioned the specific age group and the gender of persons who tend to have road traffic accidents. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, the fact of the matter is that we have more male drivers. We have also more male drivers who drive for profit, meaning persons who drive public transportation.
Right.
And also commercial vehicles. And
right.
If you look at motorcyclists, 163 motorcyclists died last year,
wow.
Mostly men. So we find that this category, you know, persons who drive for profit, males features heavily, and so they really take a little more chance as well. And so we have to work on these groups.
All right. Sometimes there's this floating perception that ticketing and heavy fines will fix the disorder and the breaches that we see of the road code. How close to reality is this?
Well, we hope that the new Road Traffic Act will be commissioned, you know, pretty quickly. It is already there. The fines, the increased fines are there. But I would like to say that in addition to that, the circle of enforcement needs to be closed. What I mean by that is that there are numerous persons who have been issued with traffic tickets that have accumulated demerit points over 10, 14, and they are still driving without their licenses being suspended. So that aspect of it we also need to close.
Right.
Because when a person accumulate 10 to 14 points, then their driver's license should be suspended for 6 months or a year. We can't have persons committing multiple breaches, having so many demerit points, and they are still out there. Because what will happen, you keep prosecuting them over and over, and they are not learning, it is not serving as a deterrent so that we can have behavior change.
But the e-traffic ticket system is going to be part of the solution, isn't it?
Definitely so,
Yes.
because that accumulation of points that we just spoke about, that will be on the system as well. And we will be able to use the system to generate those suspension notices and so on.
Okay. Finally, ACP Mackenzie, how do we get it right? You're out there every day, you are seeing the issues, you're seeing the problems. How do we get it right?
Well, we have to continue to work on all the systems that we just spoke about. We have to continue to improve technology in terms of how we enforce, in terms of how we educate. We have to incrementally improve our legislation.
Right.
We have to deal with our road environment as well, more marks, more signs. We have to be able to identify those areas that we have vulnerabilities. And I believe that all those things coming together will make a difference.
Insightful, and all of these are going to come together to make our nation's roads safer for use by pedestrians as well as motorists.
Definitely.
Thank you so very much, ACP Mackenzie, for coming and sharing with us. This has been Get the Facts. Our guest was head of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, PSTEP, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Gary Mackenzie. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I am Vanessa Silvera. Take care.
What a way you're full of our roots and culture. That was in Jamaica 60. Jamaica 60? What a piece of news, Miss Matty. I feel like my heart going bust up.
Just in, the island of Jamaica is on the verge of celebrating its 60th year of independence.
I will we have to celebrate it. They say the people them you know them come here, you know. But you see when our people decide say the other people them free paper bono, them say if it's war, start it whatever. We all collect medal panta fight, you know. Medal. Amount of tongue we did them, you know.
The celebrations are slated to begin on January 1st, 2022. Organized by the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. We have more in this report.
I am on site and planning activities are ablaze. Persons are advised to download the Reggae Jamaica app to know what it pre.
Why pre?
Activities for the Jamaica 60 celebration.
If you don't know the app to get the updates then.
Here's how we sign the alphabet.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sign with me?
A physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements, senses, or activities. That's the dictionary definition of a disability. What it is not is how one defines a person. Language matters. And when you're talking with, to, or about a person with a disability, it's important to always remember you're engaging with them, not their disability. In our next feature, we explore the topic of respectful disability language.
Words can hurt, especially for those among us with a disability, each with their own condition, which may make them stand out but should in no way have them left out. Hurtful language, intentional or not, can make people feel excluded and be a barrier to inclusion, equality, and equity. A disability is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements, senses, or activities. A disability is not a human being or group of people. With that understanding, it is never respectful to say a disabled person or the disabled. In addition, do not use the term impaired. These words do not reflect the individuality, equality, or dignity of people with disabilities.
Persons who use wheelchairs, just that, you use a wheelchair. The wheelchair happens to be your legs, you know, and that is fine. The shoes help me to move around, and my slippers and so on, and the wheelchair helps somebody else to move around.
The word itself, disability, is acceptable as it identifies the condition of a group of people. But when referring to a person one-on-one, it is best to use his or her name. If you don't know the individual's name, the person first terminology is what should be used, because the person is more important than his or her disability.
So it's not the epileptic, it is a person with epilepsy, or the person with autism, the child with autism, and so on and so forth.
When you interact with persons with disabilities, being respectful in your language is not the politically correct thing to do, it's simply the correct thing to do.
People with disabilities or the person with a disability. Persons who use a wheelchair. Wheelchair user. Intellectual disability or intellectually disabled. Person with a mental health disability. Someone living with a specific disability or illness.
In addition, when talking about places with accommodations for people with disabilities, use the term accessible. Do not use disabled or handicapped. For example, it is proper to say accessible parking space or an accessible pathway. And consider this. If you refer to someone without a disability as normal, what does that make the person with a disability? Over time, the use of language and words describing persons with disabilities have changed. As we all seek acceptance and respect, we should do our best to keep updated on the terminologies that do not dehumanize each other. If in doubt, ask. That man or woman with a disability will be happy to tell you what he or she is comfortable with being called. This fosters respect, tolerance, and prevents unnecessary embarrassment. When speaking with or of a particular group of persons with a disability, choose your words wisely. Practice good hygiene by washing your hands frequently using soap and water. Here's how you should do it while conserving water. Turn on the tap to wet your hands, then turn off the pipe. Lather your hands and the tap with soap. Turn on the tap and wash your hands, back, front, and in between fingers. Use some of the water to wash off the tap, then turn it off. Dry your hands with disposable hand towels. If you don't have running water, use a hand rub containing 62% or more alcohol. If hand sanitizers are not available, rubbing alcohol, Dettol, white rum, or household bleach will do the trick. And if all else fails, let hand washing and the handling of potable water be a two-person event. Each person will take turns pouring and washing hands with sitting water. Now is a good time to consider installing a tap on your containers to reduce the risk of water contamination. Faucets can be easily attached to drums, buckets, or 5-gallon water bottles. And to ensure that the outside of the containers are clean when recapping, disinfect it with hand rub containing alcohol that's 62% or more. The 5 R's of water conservation are also necessary to practice. Reduce water wastage by investing in water-saving devices. Reuse water at least twice before discarding. Replace leaking pipes, faucets, and other plumbing equipment. Recycle wastewater and use it for gardening, car washing, or cleaning of public spaces. And reclaim water through rainwater harvesting. We all must play our part to ensure there's water to combat the coronavirus and stave off prolonged drought.
It's absolutely critical that we receive the vaccines. You will see hospitalizations and indeed deaths likely come down. And so there is a lot of value to be gained by getting as many vulnerables on board as possible. So tell your mothers, tell your aunts, listen out for yourselves if you're over 60, and take the vax, because the vax is what will help you to guard against the COVID virus, and indeed help your relatives, your friends, those who you come in contact with, for the same benefit.
We're out of time on this show. We have another already in production for your viewing pleasure tomorrow. Visit our YouTube channel or website, jis.gov.jm, for more content like this. We welcome feedback, so let your voice be heard on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter pages. This has been Jamaica Magazine. I'm Audrey Williams. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and see you next time.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.